Our volunteer researchers at WikiTree worked collaboratively for 1 week on the family tree of business tycoon Elon Musk to find missing ancestors and interesting stories to share.
You will not be sorry, or maybe you will. It won't be boring.
SpaceX, Tesla, The Boring Company, and Neuralink AI are just a few of the companies that he is heavily involved in. According to Forbes and Bloomberg's Billionaire Index, Musk is the wealthiest person in the world. Most recently, he is notable for his bid to buy Twitter. Really, who hasn't heard of Elon Musk?
Actually, not many hands raised, by the way.
Curious about the name Elon, our researchers learned not only its meaning, but also that our Elon was not the only one in his tree. Hebrew for oak tree, the billionaire business magnate shares his given name with both his great-grandfather, John Elon Haldeman, and his grandfather, Elon Powers. Elon did not continue this trend with his own children.
For example, this is my son's name. It's pronounced cat running across the keyboard.
John Elon, born in 1871 in Illinois, was a teacher, while Elon Powers, born in 1803, was a farmer from New York. Teachers and farmers are common finds, and those are nice, but there are usually a few naughties who pop up as well, and there was no exception in Elon's family. Researchers did not have to look far into his branches to find ancestors who range from mischievous to unscrupulous. Q. Harold Fletcher, Elon's great-grandfather on his mother's side. Harold grew up in Taunton-all-States, Lincolnshire, England. His antics as a youth put him in the mischievous category. On April 6, 1900, the Stamford Mercury reported on a court case involving the young man who would have been about 15 at the time. Harold, along with two other boys, Harry Bradshaw and George Alice, were charged with loitering and smoking near the chapel during divine service on March 25th of that year.
Because those are probably bad for you. Certainly cigarettes are.
The boys were admonished and fined 4 shillings and 6 pennies. Also falling under the category of mischievous petty crimes is Elon's 5th great-grandfather, Stephen Pope. Stephen was born about 1770 in Hampshire, England, and in his later years was one of the many landlords of the Prince Regent pub in West Cowes. Whether while under his stewardship or not, it's been noted that this building was used by a rough class and often featured in local newspapers for theft, drunkenness, child neglect, and even selling beer to an underage child. Now, Stephen's crimes were much less severe. Though the law stated pubs could not be open past 9 p.m., Stephen, on at least one occasion, was caught keeping it open later and was fined £5. Years later, he was once accused again of not respecting the law. This was not surprising, as one article described him as a decrepit old man who has appeared before the bench nearly a dozen times lately. A Mr. John Hayward testified that he witnessed Stephen in Mr. Roper's beer store after the 9 o'clock hour. Scandalous. Pope was able to explain the encounter, however, stating that he was merely standing in the doorway talking to the owner and not purchasing any alcohol. The magistrates believed him.
Well, this is really winning.
For a more serious incident, we look at Elon's 9th great-grandfather, Christian Haldeman. Born about 1625 in Steffensburg, Bern, Switzerland, Christian would later remarry his second wife, Barbara Wiss, there on November 28, 1651. Barbara was an Anabaptist, a member of the radical movement of the Protestant Reformation. Anabaptists today are known as Mennonites, Amish, among other things. As early as 1530, officials killed Anabaptist leaders in an effort to purge Europe of what they considered to be a cult organization. Many of these leaders, known for their pacifism, often fled to their homelands instead of staying and fighting for their beliefs. These persecutions continued on into the 17th century, and Elon's ancestors were not left untouched. In July of 1673, Barbara was banned from Steffensburg for being an Anabaptist. After these accusations, constables went to the Haldeman home to arrest her. Outraged, Christian cried out loudly as he picked up a simple fork and waved it menacingly at the officers. For this action, he received a prison sentence as well as a hefty fine of £200 imposed by the bailiff of Thun. Finally, we go to Elon's unscrupulous fourth great-grandfather, Isaac Barter. Isaac was born about 1816 in Barton Stacey, England, to John Barter and Sarah Head. He married Fanny Mack in 1835, and together they had 2 children, Mary Ann and Lucy. In early 1840, Barter was held over for trial for participating in the assault of Eliza Carter the year prior. On February 27, 1840, Isaac was sentenced to the death penalty, but that sentence was commuted to transportation for life. November 30th, 1840, he was transported to the penal colony on the island state of Tasmania aboard the ship Lady Raffles. You would think that a life sentence to a penal colony would keep someone out of trouble, but this was certainly not the case with Isaac. On the 25th of December, 1845, he was charged with unlawfully, feloniously, and with malice aforethought taking up a fork and jabbing it into the left side of the neck of another colonist, Alexander Mickey. The wound was a mortal one, and Alexander died then and there. You would think that 2 life sentences on a penal colony would keep someone out of trouble, but again, this was not the case with Isaac. Even after receiving 36 lashes, he still continued on with an air of disrespect.
Room for improvement.
Multiple charges were issued for improper fires, disobedience, insolence, and neglect of his person, including the theft and improper possession of a dead sheep. Isaac received 19 charges in total, and additional time added on to his life sentences. He really was a Tasmanian devil.
Well, the punchline's correct.
As the saying goes, there is someone for everyone, and this proved to be true even for Isaac Barter. He found love with Anne Mary Jones, and they were married on January 23, 1860. Interestingly, this seemed to be the end of Isaac's troublemaking days, as there were no further filings of any misconduct. Isaac lived at least until the age of 80, with the end of his life spent in the New South Wales, Australia hospital and asylum. He was an infirm and destitute patient suffering from senile decay, his lawless days nothing more than a distant memory. Those are just a few of the stories uncovered by WikiTree researchers. Imagine what else we could find if we had another week.
The truth is stranger than fiction. The reality is way crazier than that.
What else would you like to know about Elon Musk? Let us know in the comments. Please be sure to take a moment to like this video if you haven't yet, and subscribe to our channel.